Hey everyone, I'm really glad you're here with me on Midnight Tales. What I'm about to share with you is no ordinary tale. It's a real story passed down from one of my relatives. This experience has haunted them for years, and now I'm going to bring it to life for you. I urge you to listen to the story all the way through, and please share your thoughts in the comments below so I can improve and make these stories even more chilling. And if you've had any experiences like this, I'd love to hear about them. Share your story. Maybe I'll narrate it here next. For the best experience, I recommend closing your eyes, imagining every detail, and using earphones to fully immerse yourself in the horror that lies ahead. It all started on a seemingly innocent weekend trip with a few close friends. We decided to escape the city's chaos and head to a beach that was far off the beaten path. It wasn't the kind of place you'd find in a travel guide. In fact, hardly anyone knew about it, except for a few locals who only spoke about it in whispers. They called it Butera Beach, which roughly translates to ghostly shore. But we shrugged off the ominous name, thinking it was just a local legend meant to keep tourists away. First day was uneventful, almost serene. The beach was pristine, with fine sand that stretched as far as the eye could see, and the water was a crystal clear blue, inviting us to dive in and forget about everything else. As the sun began to set, we built a small bonfire, laughing and sharing stories, completely unaware of what the night held for us. It was around midnight when the first incident happened. We were gathered around the fire, and the conversation had drifted into silence, each of us lost in our own thoughts. That's when we heard it, a low, mournful wail that seemed to come from the direction of the ocean. It wasn't the sound of the wind or the waves, it was something else, something unnatural. We exchanged uneasy glances, but no one said anything. We all felt it. The sudden drop in temperature, the way the air seemed to thicken around us. Felt like we were being watched, but by whom or what, we couldn't tell. As the wail grew louder, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. Just beyond the reach of the firelight, there was a figure standing in the surf. It was a woman, or at least that's what she appeared to be. Her hair was long and matted, clinging to her face and body, and her clothes were torn and drenched. But it was her eyes that sent a chill down my spine. Cold, empty, and staring directly at me. I blinked, and she was gone, as if she had never been there at all. I tried to shake it off as a trick of the light, but deep down, I knew what I had seen. I could feel it in the pit of my stomach, the gnawing fear that something was terribly wrong with this place. The second incident occurred the following morning. We had all decided to explore a bit, trying to shake off the eerie feeling from the night before. We wandered down the beach, finding an old, dilapidated shack hidden among the dunes. It looked like it had been abandoned for years, maybe decades. But as we approached, we noticed that the door was slightly ajar, creaking in the breeze. Curious, we stepped inside. The shack was empty, save for an old wooden table and a few rusted fishing tools. But then, on the far wall, we noticed something strange. Words scratched into the wood, over and over again, in a messy, almost frantic scrawl. "Help me, she won't let me leave." The words sent a shiver down my spine, and as we stood there, frozen in place, the door slammed shut behind us with a deafening bang. We all jumped, and when we tried to open it, the door wouldn't budge. It was as if an invisible force was holding it shut. For what felt like hours, we struggled against the door, panic rising in our chests until suddenly it gave way. We stumbled out into the daylight, gasping for air. No one spoke as we hurried back to our campsite, but I could see the fear in my friend's eyes. Something was wrong with this beach, something beyond our understanding. The third incident happened later that afternoon. We decided to pack up and leave as quickly as we could, but as we were gathering our things, we heard a child's laughter coming from the direction of the dunes. It was high-pitched, almost musical, but there was something off about it, something that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. We looked around, but there was no one there, no sign of any children. The laughter grew louder, more insistent, and then, out of nowhere, a ball rolled into our campsite, stopping right at my feet. I picked it up, my hands trembling, and that's when I saw it. Small handprints smeared across the surface of the ball, as if a child had been holding it just moments before. But there were no footprints in the sand. No sign of anyone else around. The laughter stopped abruptly, leaving behind an eerie silence that seemed to stretch on forever. That night, none of us could sleep. We stayed huddled together, too afraid to close our eyes, listening to the sounds of the night, the rustling of the wind, the distant crash of the waves, and something else, something moving, just beyond the edge of the campfire's light. Fourth incident was the most terrifying of all. It was just before dawn, and the fire had died down to embers. We were all half asleep, too exhausted to keep watch any longer, and I felt something cold brush against my face. I opened my eyes and found myself staring into the face of the woman from the night before. She was standing right over me, cold, dead eyes locked onto mine. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I was paralyzed, unable to move, as she slowly leaned down, her face inches from mine. Her breath was ice cold, and I could smell the stench of decay. Then, just as suddenly as she had appeared, she was gone, leaving me gasping for air, my heart pounding in my chest. I looked around, but my friends were still asleep, unaware of what had just happened. I wanted to wake them, to tell them we had to leave right now, but I was too scared, too shaken by what I had just experienced. The fifth and final incident happened just as we were packing up to leave. We were all on edge, desperate to get off that beach, when one of my friends, Rahul, suddenly stopped in his tracks, staring out at the ocean. I followed his gaze and saw what had caught his attention. A boat, far out on the water, but something was wrong. The boat was moving, but there was no one on board, no sign of any crew. It drifted closer and closer to the shore, and that's when we saw it, figure standing on the deck, waving at us. It was the woman, eyes locked onto mine, a twisted smile on her lips. We didn't wait to see what would happen next. We grabbed our things and ran, not stopping until we were far away from that cursed place. We never spoke about what happened that weekend, not to each other, not to anyone else. But I can't stop thinking about it, about the things we saw and heard, and the feeling that something followed us back, something that still haunts my dreams. And now as I tell this story, I can feel it again, that same cold presence, watching, waiting. Maybe it's still out there, on that beach, or maybe it's closer than I think. Either way, I know one thing for sure. I'll never go back to Butera Beach, and I suggest you don't either. If you found this story intriguing and it sent chills down your spine, don't forget to subscribe to Midnight Tales for more terrifying experiences.